The outcome of their most recent conflict was a complete mystery. Long-range precision weapons with devastating capability, Ukrainian HIMARS missiles hit their mark and sank numerous Russian warships, sparking a naval conflict with Russia. Many wondered how Russia would react to such an unexpected blow to its naval force as the battle raged around the world. A global revolution in combat is significantly shifting the balance of power in the confrontation between Ukraine and Russia, giving ground troops capabilities that were previously only available aboard aircraft, ships, or ponderous tracked vehicles. Battlefields outside of Eastern Europe could also be affected. The M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, or HIMARS, is the primary weapon in the new operational plan. US-supplied drones, Javelin anti-tank rockets, and Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, all enabled by GPS guidance and cutting-edge microelectronics, have been in use by Ukrainian forces since June. The 16 HIMARS provided invaluable support to Ukrainian troops this summer, allowing them to pick down Russian military sites, ammunition dumps, and infrastructure far beyond the front lines. The Ukrainian military has made significant gains against Russian forces in the past month, retaking land in the country's east and south. Washington committed to send 18 more HIMARS to Afghanistan. The HIMARS is a highly specialized weapon system in Kyiv's arsenal with the ability to replace dozens of launchers and thousands of shells. HIMARS and other equipment are appending a century's worth of preconceptions about how wars must be fought, and more specifically about what military supplies must look like. HIMARS's drastically increased precision significantly reduces the large logistical footprint required by contemporary infantry. An ex-major general in the United States Army, Robert Scales, was one of the first to conceptualize HIMARS in the 1970s. He explained that HIMARS is part of a precision revolution that transforms traditionally heavily armed forces into ones that are more easily mobile. When the troops of this unit were preparing dinner one night, they received orders to carry out their sixth mission of the day: attack a Russian barracks and a river barge with weapons and tanks located 40 miles distant. Their 2 HIMARS were packed with 6 men, a driver, targeted, and commander in each vehicle, as well as the battery commander and security detail in an armed personnel carrier. The commander used a tablet computer to input coordinates and find a safe firing zone. Minutes later, the 2 HIMARS rumbled out from under the apricot trees and headed for the adjoining sunflower field where they would be launched. They arrived 30 seconds later and launched 7 missiles simultaneously. The trucks had already begun the return trip to camp when the projectiles began their assault. 44-mile away Soviet-era rocket launchers appeared as another pair of targets 10 minutes later. The HIMARS rolled out of the way and unleashed another salvo of rockets. As soon as they could, the troops returned to camp and finished eating. To highlight the results of their efforts, several users on Telegram accessed footage of burned Russian barracks. Hundreds of Russian targets, including command centers, ammo depots, refueling stations, and bridges, have been damaged by Ukraine's HIMARS rockets, which have a range of 50 miles. This has cut off supplies to frontline soldiers. They have been striking retreating Russian forces since they halted Russia's spring push across Ukraine's eastern Donbas area. Lieutenant Valentin Koval, the commander of the HIMARS, claims that his unit is responsible for 70% of the military gains on the Kherson front. He claims that his 4 trucks had destroyed around 20 anti-aircraft batteries and killed hundreds of Russians. Similarly to other artillery systems developed since World War I, Russia's is notoriously inaccurate. While destroying an objective, troops typically flatten the surrounding area to the ground. HIMARS may accomplish their mission with a single rocket carrying a 200-pound explosive warhead. Each Ukrainian HIMARS is equipped with a rocket pod that contains 6 rockets and has the destructive power of conventional artillery weighing over 100,000 pounds. The weight and size of artillery make it awkward to transport. More than 60% of a US division relied on it during Operation Desert Storm in Iraq in 1991. It takes time, effort, fuel, and manpower to move, not to mention the manpower and equipment needed to keep supply operations safe. So much aid is wasteful and an easy target, as the world saw in the early days of the Ukraine conflict when a Russian supply convoy was halted by Ukrainian shelling outside of Kyiv and became a 40-mile-long sitting duck. HIMARS units are resupplied with pre-packed rocket pods that are buried in the surrounding countryside at designated pickup locations. Like a commercial delivery route, a cargo vehicle drops off the camouflage green pods about the size of a single bed at a series of predetermined places. HIMARS teams drive to the ammo drop locations, where a waiting 3-man loading team uses the vehicle's built-in crane to quickly and efficiently switch out empty pods for full ones. When the enemy tries to return fire, the time it takes to put up Russia's best truck-based rocket launchers at the launch point and reload can be crucial. The HIMARS are speedier and have a safer crew cabin thanks to its armor. Team members on the Ukrainian HIMARS don't get fat by spending weeks at a time away from home base. Since June, when they got their first HIMARS, Lieutenant Kowal's unit has been camping out next to their launchers and using surrounding support vehicles as their bedrooms. The guys, who were taught by US instructors outside of Ukraine, waiting on standby for new targets, are ready to flip into action at a moment's notice and then go back to doing something as banal as pouring coffee or playing cards. Underneath the Ukrainian term for workhorse that was painted white on the front armor of one HIMARS was a white smiley face. They stenciled 69 black skulls on the other vehicle, which had an odometer reading of nearly 13,000 miles to honor the significant hits that had been confirmed. Instructions for completing a mission are relayed in the form of latitude and longitude coordinates, along with a description of the target and the option to fire either explosive missiles at armored targets or fragment charges at troops. US intelligence agencies and partisans in occupied territories are both sources of information used in the target selection process. In the next step, the HIMARS commanders select a prime launch site and position the vehicles there. The vehicle commander sits in the cab between the driver and the targeter, who is responsible for entering mission information into a computer. Once at the launch site, the targeted presses a button to raise the missiles into a vertical position and a second to fire. The missiles explode in the air, sending a plume of smoke over the playing field as they disappear into the darkness. The truck drives back into the cover of the trees as the launcher is retracted. 2 HIMARS under Lieutenant Kowal's command operated in tandem with 2 others on a particularly busy day in late August. His team fell back to reload while the other 2 moved forward and opened fire. Lieutenant Kowal reported that he and his unit worked for 37 hours straight without sleep, striking 120 targets and paving the way for Ukrainian soldiers to penetrate Russian lines in the southern city of Kherson. Initially, Washington was hesitant to supply Ukraine with HIMARS because of concern that Moscow would react against the United States or its NATO allies. Ukraine has only been able to blow holes in concrete bridges so far, but with the delivery of more powerful rockets that can be fired up to 185 kilometers, they might damage far more sturdy targets. Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu has ordered his troops to focus on Ukraine's long-range armament as an indication that the greater firepower is affecting Moscow's military. HIMARS operators report that Russian kamikaze drones pose the greatest threat and that this threat has been bolstered in recent years by more effective Iranian systems. However, they believe they are effectively protected by Ukrainian anti-air systems and special troops. Lieutenant Kowal added that no HIMARS have been struck, although his crew has aborted 2 shooting missions this summer due to the presence of a drone. "We're constantly on the run," Lieutenant Kowal remarked. That's all for the video. We will be right back. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.